Thank you all for joining us again. This week, myself and my colleague Adrian are going to focus on the topic of the heads of agreements, or HOAs for short, and why they are important in securing tenant-friendly terms for your premises. Welcome again, Adrian.
Thanks, Ed. We're looking at a very important topic today.
Firstly, to give a bit of context, Adrian, what is the heads of agreement and when can it be used?
Yeah, so heads of agreement really is a list of all the important commercial terms and is a framework to negotiate the final lease contract. So it includes items such as rent, outgoings, make good, trading hours and use. A common mistake with the heads of agreement is that tenants forget key items to go into a lease. For example, rent abatement, which is a key issue right now with COVID shutdowns, and that is how you end up with an unfriendly lease.
Thanks, Adrian. So how do you ensure that all the key terms are included in the heads of agreement so that nothing is missed in the lease?
So heads of agreement isn't designed to be very prescriptive. For example, you might say what the option term and last date to exercise the option is, but you won't outline the whole option clause that would usually be in a lease. One way for multi-site portfolios to reduce the ambiguity and negotiations once you get to the lease is by providing an annexure to the heads of agreement, which outlines your standard terms and conditions. An example of this may be turnover rent, whereby the heads of agreement would outline the percentage of turnover rent and the threshold, but the annexure would then provide further turnover rent details, such as not being applicable to online sales. So Ed, how would you suggest dealing with key terms if you're, say, a single site tenant and may not have a list of standard terms and conditions?
Well, if you're a single site tenant, it would be advisable to ask your landlord for a copy of their standard lease terms. And if there's something in that sticks out as non-favorable to yourself as the tenant, you could then include an amendment to this in a special condition on the heads of agreement and even request for its removal.
Yep. So Ed, are heads of agreements legally binding? This is a really interesting question.
Yeah, so a heads of agreement is legally binding if there is a clause stating the mechanisms required to make it binding. However, many heads of agreements contain subject to conditions that make them non-binding, for example, subject to board approval or subject to executed lease documents. And tenants can really use these conditions to your advantage. In some instances, if you want the flexibility to possibly pull out of the negotiations down the track, you could include wording or a condition in the heads of agreement that it is subject to the tenant's board approval. And just wrapping up, LPC Cresa is well placed to help with your lease negotiations. We can provide the necessary templates and checklists so that you are best prepared for your negotiation, or alternatively, we can provide representation on your behalf. Don't put off your lease negotiations any further. Please go to lpc.com.au/subscriptions and sign up to our free subscription service and start your path towards a better lease. Thank you.
Thank you.